Hey, hey, welcome to Release Your Phoenix. This is Heather Day, and I have a special guest today, Arielle Star, and we are going to be discussing masculine and feminine energies today and the ways that they interact with each other and some of the ways that we've noticed that parts of this are left out in traditional teachings and also in some of the teachings of individuals when they are focusing on only one of the energies at a time. So, Arielle, do you want to share a little bit of your background, kind of what you do, and then maybe we can discuss some of the experiences and perspectives that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really great to be here, Heather. Thank you so much, and just thank you, all of you, for tuning in with us today. I I I am an artist, but that's just like saying 1% of what it really is, which I'm sure everybody can relate to. I've been on a healing journey, healing path, pretty much my whole life, and I've had a lot of just a lot of experiences with the dynamic of masculine, feminine energies, relationships, issues around sexuality, just different things that have been just part of my soul journey in this lifetime, really my whole life. So going through the various just personal growth and development, 3 years of shamanic apprenticeship and many years of different types of counseling and growth, and just, really decades of self-understanding and exploration, that's been specifically focused around this topic of love, relationship, male, female, masculine, feminine presences within each of us, within myself, within partnerships, etc. And so, anyway, that's kind of what brings me here to this place of feeling like I have any qualification at all to discuss this. I'm certainly not any kind of expert or scholar in divine feminine and divine masculine, um, you know, theories or philosophies or understandings. I'm just able to share my own personal experience and my viewpoint from my life's journey, and I'm really happy to do that. Thank you.
I think that's perfect because that's what my podcast is all about, is sharing from the perspectives that I've had, that I've gained from my embodied experiences. And, I always tell people who ask about this work, have you done schooling? Have you gone through? Life is the school for this shit. This is what life is, the school for this. If you haven't embodied it, if you haven't experienced it, I actually don't want to talk to you, So that just sounds perfect. So I guess why don't you go ahead and discuss a little bit about what your understandings are currently on how the masculine and feminine energies work in themselves and how they kind of interact.
Yeah, okay. The first thing that I want to clarify is that for me, when I'm discussing this, which I think people understand and relate to in this day and age, is that I'm not really specifically talking about like men and women, more of these kind of masculine, feminine energies that are in all of us, and
Right.
to different degrees for sure. And it is common that men have more of the masculine, but that's not absolutely a truth by any means. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you guys can see this fly buzzing around. So if you see me swatting, it's part of Northeast Oregon, living up in the mountains. So yeah, so we all know there are many men who have a huge, incredible feminine energy and presence around them, many women who have plenty of masculine energy, tons of people walking the planet right now who don't give a heck about masculine, feminine identity within themselves or with anybody. People can be completely balanced, completely on one end, on the other end, and it's all just this beautiful opportunity for each soul to have their own free will and their own experience around these different energetic dynamics. So anyway, just that caveat that I'm not specifically speaking about men or women. One of the main points that I think is interesting to bring up currently is that traditionally there's been a lot of focus on the qualities of the feminine that are more the receivers and more passive and gentle and nurturing, and the masculine being more like the active force and the, you know, kind of the active penetrating force. And both of those things are true, but both of those things, in my personal experience, please don't get the impression that I'm saying this is what's true and this isn't. This is just my own interpretation of these concepts, is that the feminine energy, it receives, and then it takes what it receives and it alchemizes, and then it really, you know, just expands and grows and emanates so much energy that to call the feminine, you know, just a receiving or a passive energy, you know, that's like 10% of the feminine. So that is true, but I feel that some of those teachings around that, for me personally, just feel a little bit outdated. I think, you know, most people here can agree that there are many, many women walking this earth who are absolute powerhouse forces of nature, and that's not necessarily saying that's their masculine qualities being, you know, strong and successful. It's the feminine is soft and receptive, and the feminine is like a raging force of nature, fiery storm. So both of those things are true at the same time. So that's one piece of the puzzle. And then another piece of the puzzle that I find is really important to emphasize is that some of the older ideas and archetypes of the masculine being, you know, particularly like real warrior energy, or also real like priest, scholarly energy. There is the father energy, the king, there's these kind of masculine, patriarchal, kind of traditional energies. But what I have found through my life experience to really understand, particularly, I mean, I guess in some senses I am talking about men and women, but also what I think is really a quality of the divine masculine within many men that I know is that there is a quality that is within them, which I think is one of the most profound, beautiful, deep strengths that men have, that is this incredible, nurturing, loving, tender, caring essence. And I don't necessarily think that they're tapping into their feminine when they're doing this. I think it is a part of their masculine essence as well. You know, examples of this are definitely when you see, you know, a father like really lovingly with his children. I mean, there's, you know, there's a quality of the masculine that comes out there that is tender and loving and protective and affectionate and nurturing and playful. And he's not being a mother. Like, that is part of the divine father energy. And it's certainly not required for a man to have children to embody this energy. I have seen men beautifully tending to their partners and their relationships, to their dogs, you know, to their businesses, to their homes, and tending with this unbelievable force of nurturing as well. And so I guess those 2 points are the things that I'd like to kind of, you know, initially bring into the conversation, that, you know, that, yeah, that's what I'd like to start with.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great place to start. You know, when I first started experiencing my journey with balancing the masculine and the feminine, it began, you know, as an internal thing, just recognizing how imbalanced and how dominant my masculine energy was, which happens oftentimes to women in society who are trying to live to society's standards because of the things that society allows and or will allow and says is okay, right? And this is something that I've actually been going into more deeply recently, is the things that society, the ways that society represses each one of these energies. But, in my journey, as I moved through my personal journey, of course, I, as a woman, was guided toward womb healing and these different sacred ceremonies to heal and release and embrace and balance the feminine energies that are dominant within me. And I've had amazing, deep conversations with people about, the energies that they possess as either bisexual or homosexual men or women who have these dominant energies that exist within them. And sometimes they're quite balanced, like you were saying, but it still has this interplay of the masculine and feminine. And it was so interesting for me to watch that we always attract the polarization of whatever we are. And so it's always a perfect match. And as I've been exploring this further, the first realizations that I started to have was regarding my wild woman and the ways in which society represses feminine energy. And, by societal's in general standards, particularly here in America and some other countries, and by religious standards and by, lots of traditional standards, that good girl, that white river energy is accepted when it comes to the feminine energy, that nurturing mother who is quiet and demure and playful and always happy with a smile on her face, taking care of her family. And this is the ideal that women have tried to live up to for generations. And it's honestly, there's an entire portion of the feminine energy there that is just being completely repressed. And that is the portion, in my opinion, that, don't get me wrong, that good girl has got some power, because that good girl is what keeps that wild woman pressed down. She also is the one who has the fears and things like that hold that wild woman down. But once you release that wild woman inside, you get that primal energy, that raw connection to universe. And that is where we become powerful creators. That is where we are sensuous and playful in such a different way. And this is where you see the magic of the feminine, is in that balanced expression of the red river, right? Or the wild woman. And as I recognized that I had that repressed within me, and as I was able to start bringing that out and really getting to know that woman and really getting to understand myself and fall in love with that part of myself and express that part of myself, I realized that I was looking for the polar of that in my man. I want a man who's wild, who's connected that way, who understands, the connection to nature, who's playful. And I realized that that is part of the masculine energy that actually oftentimes gets repressed as well when they are working to, succeed by societal standards. And so not only do we have the repression of the emotions of the masculine, but we also take their natural drive and desire to provide and to create this space. The masculine energy naturally wants to draw out the feminine energy. They naturally want to open that feminine energy so that it can be penetrated by their energy. That is in order to do that, you have to have a supportive space that feminine energy is able to blossom into and fully express itself. And so by societal standards, men have been taught that the providing and support needs to come from material means. And yet, when you start doing this work, you realize none of it comes from out there. So if men are seeking the support for their family and their women through money and houses and cars and all of these things, neither one of them are ever going to feel fulfilled, because he isn't actually fully expressing his masculine energy the way that the way that his energy yearns to, and she isn't being supported in the way that she yearns to be supported, because it doesn't come down to anything outside of you. It's that internal masculine energy that's actually supporting her feminine energy to blossom and bloom within, that's actually that full expression of self, right? And the other thing that I realized as I was kind of coming to this is that, you know, as part of the yin and yang, when you've got that masculine energy and that little bit of feminine in there, that masculine energy, in order to be fully expressing itself, must work with that feminine energy within, in whatever balance they have, in order to create space for that feminine energy, to create space for that creativity, for that playfulness, for all of these things from the feminine energy. And not just, you know, obviously all of his balanced energies as well that come through in the beautiful masculine energies, but he's got to bring that out of himself and support that in himself. And the woman, or the feminine energy, myself, you know, we have to learn to take that little bit of masculine energy, and we're not just these rivers that flow. And yes, rivers flow and they're powerful and they create canyons and they're incredible. But when we add this masculine energy as well, of holding space for ourselves, honoring ourselves, protecting ourselves, and guarding ourselves, not in a way that cuts people off, but just honoring ourselves as the goddesses that we are, then that allows the masculine energy to come and support and do all of these beautiful things within us. And we feel then whole and happy and joyous and abundant within ourselves. And then we can call in that perfect yin and yang match, where we can be that full, incredible experience for each other, where the masculine is fully embracing that feminine and the feminine is fully receiving the masculine. But we have all of these interplays of these energies within us as well. And there's this give and take and this beautiful dance that can be created with it. And like you said, like it's such a complex thing to just simplify it to masculine energy is the leading energy. The men lead and they penetrate. And well, first of all, you're assuming that these men have balanced masculine energies to begin with, that all of these men are on these incredible healing journeys to begin with, because let me tell you, when they're not, they misinterpret that terribly. You know, it's all so energetic. So, and then it's the same with the women. We're not just these receiving vessels, like you're saying. We're not just there to be receptacles. We're there to alchemize and transform. So yeah, I definitely would agree. And I think you were saying, I know that I think you said when we had spoken before as well, I've seen so much come up very recently, just because of where we are cosmically in the timeline, with Mercury had just gone into retrograde, with this, we just had a new moon, and we've got the Lionsgate portal opening, we had all these eclipses, and there has been a lot happening with relationships. And so that's part of the reason why I think you and I both have been called to this masculine feminine energy conversation, because we've been seeing a lot of the ways that interacts. And I know that you were telling me that there's some advice that you've been giving to some of the men that you've been talking to about the ways that they're interacting in their relationship.
Yeah. What advice am I giving to men?
You had mentioned that the masculine energy is there to actually hold that space. They're there to create that space, not just penetrate it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in describing this energy that the feminine has, where yes, we receive, and yes, we nurture, and yes, that's a huge part of who we are, but that we're also these total, powerhouse forces of nature, we can't actually do the rest of the expanding and growing and expansion. We can receive and then we can alchemize, but in order to really expand and become the totally blossomed goddesses that we were born to be, we actually need this atmosphere of safety around us. There's this like container, this protection. And that is this energy that the masculine brings around us. And so I love your image of the yin yang, right? So when, us as women, if, we can get that little portion of the masculine, or whatever portion of the masculine we have within us, and that we can really cultivate that to be our boundaries and our safe space. But a different thing happens in relationship, regardless of genders relating, but in the relationship where there is a feminine force present, when there is a masculine force present that's really healthy and holding this totally supportive space so that the feminine force can absolutely blossom, that is when just epic creativity happens. I mean, universes can be created out of this, incredible power and force of nature that is within the feminine, like creative fire within all of us. And so, I love to remind anybody, but I definitely love to remind the men that there is something about when they can provide this real, if they're coming into a relationship, with a woman or with whoever, and the masculine essence wants to have a really healthy relationship, nurturing that feminine essence in the partner, creating a space where there's this incredible like safety and protection and this container that just allows the feminine force to completely relax and open. And when that happens and all of her Shakti can flow and expand, not only does she become super creative and all of her power is activated, but that also blesses and feeds and comes back to the masculine presence or essence in her life as well. And that feeds that essence. And so I like to make this distinction and clarity that, well, I do often say it's great when a man holds a protective space for a woman. Now we're totally getting into man and woman, but to keep in mind, it's not just that the masculine is the servant of the feminine. I don't see it in that way at all. I see it as the masculine is providing this beautiful service and support to the feminine, but it's this circle. She's, creating all this power and energy that flows back out to him and into him and then strengthens him. And then he's stronger in all of his power and all of his, things that he's doing in the world with his heart and his mind and his brilliance and his strength and his power, all of these things. Like the feminine principle is feeding and nurturing him as he's creating this space for her to expand with her power and her nourishment. And so he's doing this nourishing thing, like we were talking about before, like what it's easy to see with men with their children or with their dogs, sometimes with their women, if they're really
and actually the image just came to me of what it looks like for the energy flow in a tantric connection, where it's coming out of the man up through the root chakra of the woman. It's carried up through her chakras into her crown, and she carries his energy with her. And it's his energy that helps support that. And then it comes out of her crown chakra back down into his crown chakra and through his body. And our souls, the energy that we are, who we are, is created this way with this unique balance of the masculine and the feminine, however it is expressing in this physical body, this avatar that we have, right? Our soul is who we really are, and that is the essence of our energy. And it was made to magnetically attract that polar opposite. And when they come together, they are whole in themselves. And when they come together, they are made to enhance that experience. That is the entire point of this. And we get to experience it with our 5 senses through these amazing little avatars that we have, which is even more incredible. So
absolutely magical. I mean, it's the most, holy, sacred, spiritual, divine, godly thing I think that can happen on this, at least in this portion of the universe where we do have these masculine, feminine dualities and polarities, and the whole version of reproduction that happens here on Earth, which might be different than in other places in the universe, but the way we have it here, so we have this co-creation and harmonizing between these 2 principles to create sacred, God, holy energy,
right.
and magic, and life, or many other things. We can create life with this beautiful essence that is created, or we can create really anything with it.
Yeah, we can create whatever we put our energy towards, we get to create with it, right? And
Exactly.
that goes for beauty and destruction. So, I mean, we can do whatever we want with it. And, I also thought it was interesting when you mentioned, the masculine. It's not just that it's serving the feminine by creating the space. This is the masculine expressing itself in its most full and authentic form. This is what any man will tell you. Or any masculine energy will tell you, this is what I'm called to. I'm called to protect, to provide. That is why I am here. That is what makes this energy feel fully, authentically expressed. And the feminine energy, I've seen a lot of women who have misunderstood the idea of being receptive to the masculine energy as being somehow submissive to the masculine energy. And it's not at all. This is all from completely equal space as far as energetically goes. There is no one that is dominant and submissive. It's more like, yes, a strong leader. There is a strong leading, but you know what? The woman is a strong leader in her own way. And there's this give and this take between the 2 energies, where at one point he's kind of leading by holding the space so that she can blossom, and then she's leading because she's creating this amazing, alchemizing all of these things back to him, and she's creating her own things. So there is no, yes, the feminine form is receptive, but it's not submissive in the masculine form being dominant in some way, and even sexually, there's this give and take. And when that wild woman is free, there is this give and this take, even sexually. So there is no just, missionary. Like, that ain't gonna happen, So,
exactly.
yeah, I think it's just these energies have been something that I've been really, really thinking about so much for a while now. So I'm so glad that we were able to jump into this and really explore some of this. So
yeah, I think our next talk should be on sacred sexuality. That would be a really fun conversation to have too.
Actually, that is exactly where I wanted to go next week, because I felt like this led so naturally into that. So that's exactly, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, we'll get together and we'll have to plan that and see what we come up with. I always, every week I just kind of do what comes to me, like, as the next sort of thing, because there's always something coming up energetically, intuitively, that's guiding me, different people struggling, coming up, it always happens in cycles. Just the week before last week, I was having a lot of realizations around, you know, some of these dark wounds, some of these deep emotional wounds that we may wake up, but oftentimes we're not addressing those. And so, and then this time we had all of these things come up around the masculine, feminine energy, and now it seems to be leading beautifully to that sacred sexual energy. So I'm really excited to, yeah, that's where it's headed. That's the plan.
Yeah, awesome. Great.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Arielle. I really appreciate it. And guys, you can check out this podcast on Spotify, Release Your Phoenix, or you can go follow me on Instagram. You'll get all of my latest updates at Phoenix_rising_2019. You can also follow me on Facebook under Phoenix Rising. And I'll have some more of Arielle Star, it looks like, next week for you guys.
That would be awesome. And if any of you would like to see any of my art or more of the work that I'm doing, you can find me on Facebook at Arielle Star Sacred Art, and also on Instagram at Arielle Star Art. And Star is just with one R.
And her work is incredible. It has such beauty. It has so much beautiful energy in it. And you do sell prints as well as originals, correct?
Yeah, and that's actually going to be up and running here in the next couple of weeks. I'm in the process of changing print companies and working with this incredible company out of San Francisco that does amazing prints, like on metal and wood and different kinds of glass. Like, you can get your art printed on all these different mediums that just really show it in incredible ways. This right behind me here is one of my paintings of, this is of Mary Magdalene, which is, I chose to be present for this particular podcast because it seems really appropriate. But yeah, thank you, Heather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, your Mary Magdalene is beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So yes, please go check out Arielle Star, support her, go check out her paintings, and we would love any feedback, any topic that you would love to hear about. I'm always open and all ears. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Blessings. Much love to everybody. Bye-bye.